So let's go ahead and let's get started tonight. Father, we love you and thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for a great time that we could just take a sneak peek in the future. Nearly 130 of your book, the Bible, deals with prophetic events. And you tell us the future because you want us to know the future. Because it's supposed to motivate us. We don't know the day nor the hour when our departure comes, but you tell us signs it's getting close, and we're going to see one of those tonight. And so as always, God, as your people, may we respond appropriately. It's never a time to be fearful. It's a time to be faithful. We need to finish strong. When, not if the rapture happens, you're going to find us doing something. And if we're not living for you and sharing the gospel to as many as we can, we are completely sidetracked as your people. If that's where we're at tonight, God, get us back on track, spank us on track, do what you got to do so that we can finish strong as your bride. The time is getting close. But God, as always, if there's anybody here or even watch online that's not truly born again, I don't know the heart, but you do. I can be fooled, but you can't. If they're not truly born again, God, would you please have mercy on them and save them before it's too late? This is not a joke. It's not a game. What is coming to this planet, you said, Jesus, is the worst time in the history of mankind, so horrible that unless you, God, shortened the time frame, kept it to 7 years basically, the entire human race would be destroyed. This is not a game. We wouldn't want our worst enemy there. So God, please, if anybody needs to be saved, save them tonight before they leave this place. So please bless our study even now. We ask all this in your wonderful name, in Jesus' name, and all God's people said, Amen. Well, hey, we are here to talk about this exciting topic, the coming mark of the beast. Good thing we see no signs of that happening. Yeah, actually, if you've been paying attention, you should realize that the first stage of the mark of the beast is already being put into play, and that is with the coming cashless scenario. Have you noticed that? Pushing cash, especially since COVID, cash is bad, it's dirty, but it's even now getting to the point now with the what? Bank collapse going on, getting rid of the smaller guys to shove you into the bigger guys. There's a reason behind that, and that's the first stage of the mark of the beast system because this is happening all over the world, not just in America, and that's with the CBDC, central bank digital currency, okay? But again, it's not just America. This is already happening simultaneously all over the world. Digital currency is the wave, and they're cramming it down our throat. Now, we've already seen, if you're paying attention, I refuse to call him president, the guy who's in the White House, Joe Biden. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not. This will make a good t-shirt. You can make some money on this one, Pastor, for our watch. But apparently his name, Biden, is an acronym. Did you know that? Yeah, it stands for Bumbling Imbecile Destroying Entire Nation. It really does stand for that, apparently. It's very accurate. But anyway, so basically, he's already signed the executive order last year, there it is, to bring in a digital dollar. It's also being called Biden bucks, in case you're wondering. So he's already done the executive order so that when the right crisis comes along, we all switch to that digital currency, okay? And again, this is happening all over the world. Now, if you're saying like, wait a second, America's doing it, other countries, I mean, that sounds like it's a concerted effort around the globe. Well, it is, and that's partly due to this guy. Klaus Schwab, if you're not familiar with him, he's the founder of the World Economic Forum, and basically he founded that in 1971, and since 1971, they don't just meet every year in Davos, Switzerland, to discuss economic issues, to steer the world, that's their words, not mine, which is dangerous enough. But since 1971, he has been planting people, training them, planting them in every major developed country, including Biden. Okay, and it's both sides of the aisle, by the way. There's a lot of plants from Klaus Schwab. That's why they're all working and doing this all at the same time. And as you can see there, what was the excuse to put this plan that they've been working on for 50 years into place? The COVID pandemic was the trigger. And they say that admittedly over and over and over again. Now, we also know that Biden is working for Klaus Schwab because of the phrase there, build back better. And I always got to kick this when I see this picture because you notice he's got his, if you remember in his campaign in 2020, he said that his text number was what? As you can see it there. It's what? 30330. Now, I remember when I first saw that, I'm going like, this guy can't remember nothing. He can hardly even read a teleprompter. So why did you give him such a confusing number? You should have given him 11111, and maybe he would get that, right? Why did you give him 30330? Now, I said all that to get to this. I'm going to break a pastor's rule. Get your phone out. Get your phone out. Right? And whip up your calculator. Okay? Hurry up, because we got time. We got time. Right? So get your calculator ready. All right, now I want you to take the year that he was running, 2020. So take 2020, Divide that by 666. What do you get? Do you think that's the quinky dink? Folks, I got saved out of the occult. I got saved out of Satanism. Numbers are huge in the occult. And when you're in the occult, you always do things on certain days, and 3 is one of those big numbers, including in witchcraft. It's called the power of 3. Freemasonry, the whole 9 yards. These guys tell you who they're working for. But that's just the occult aspect, and yes, Biden is involved in the occult, as well as a lot of other politicians, unfortunately. But the other thing, Build Back Better, right? Build Back Better. Why did he run on that campaign? Because that came directly from Klaus Schwab. Build Back Better is a phrase that basically should tell you and I in the know that anybody who says it, any world leader, they're working for Klaus Schwab. And they're going to bring in this cashless society, mark of the beast system, which is his vision for the planet that he calls the Great Reset. Okay? But let's take a look at some of that Build Back Better proof.
It's a very pertinent question to ask, how do we build back better?
To build back better or whatever.
We have a chance to reset the clock and build back better than before.
To build back better than before.
Remember the terrible damage of COVID as we try to build back from this global pandemic.
Joe Biden calls it Build Back Better.
Build back better.
Building back better.
To do things differently. To build back better.
We're going to build it back better.
And build it back better.
It's my plan to build back better.
Start taking all the problems that have been created in education and mental health and start to build back in a positive way.
Unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset the ways in which we live.
The great opportunity for reset.
Build back better.
Building back better our economy.
Build back better.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
It's a big effort to, some would say, to build back better.
Now, how many guys would say that mathematically the odds are, in the favor that these guys just from all different parts of the world, all different countries, including Rome, just happened to randomly come up with the same phrase? If you believe that, go ahead and raise your hand. Now slap yourself with it. Are you kidding me? It tells you they're all working together from a central source, and it's straight out of Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum. And this is their first stand. They want to bring in a cashless society, which is needed for the mark of the beast scenario. Okay? In fact, shocker, guess who also is involved in this? And that would happen to be the Pope. As you can see there, he even says, build back better. I don't know, I got a theory that goes like this. It's almost like he's trying to get the job of the false prophet or something. I don't know. But he's in on it too as well. They're all working together as a setup, okay? Now you're thinking, well, so what? So they bring in a cashless society. I don't hardly use any cash, and me personally, I really don't. It's rare for me to carry cash, right? But so you're thinking, so what? So they bring in a digital dollar. So they go cashless, whatever. Basically, this will bring in a digital concentration camp. It will bring in basically game over scenario. See, because we can work on, and I'm excited, and you guys have won my heart, being active in your community and changing the community for Christ and for Christian values and things of that nature. And we all Christians should be doing that. But if these guys get this digital currency in, it is game over. They will control everything about your life. And again, this is what they're staging with the bank crisis right now to give them the excuse to reset the system. But if it ever goes digital, it's over, folks. We had better speak up and fight against this quickly. But let's take a look at how they're probably going to bring it in and what they will do in limiting every aspect of our lives. Let's take a look at this.
So how might this new system be introduced?
The Prime Minister called an emergency meeting today to discuss the unprecedented slide into economic recession in the UK and global economies. Inflation is out of control, and high interest rates are causing thousands of house repossessions. All cash points and over-the-counter cash services are now frozen, and millions of people face losing their life savings as a number of high street banks are declared insolvent. The government and the Bank of England are accelerating the introduction of a new central bank digital currency, which all bank customers in the UK will be able to receive in exchange for their existing money, which in many cases is now unobtainable from their bank accounts. Download your central bank CBDC wallet app today and get bonus digital pounds free.
John, we need to download the digital wallet thing. See if we can transfer it in.
We've got no other option, love. Wow, it's transferred and it's given us some bonus money. I can't believe it.
How do you know it's worked?
It's worked, love. Everyone's using this money now. I can't remember the last time I used cash. It seems so cumbersome and old-fashioned, fiddling about with coins every time you want to buy something. It's much easier now.
Recent data from the annual Climate Change Conference has revealed that only a drastic reduction in fossil fuel use will help protect against climate change. The government has announced limits on petrol and diesel use for all individuals in the UK, which will be enforced using smart money. Each wallet will be limited to a purchase of 15 litres per week, after which the wallet will be prevented from making any further purchases in that week.
Ah, bollocks.
Growing concerns over obesity and bad health will be tackled using the Smart Money Network. The government proposes to limit the total number of sugary foods that each digital wallet can purchase in any given month.
What?
Experts say that the new pandemic, which is 10 times more contagious and deadly than coronavirus, can only be defeated by minimising all human contact and staying home as much as possible. In order to enforce this, all digital wallets will only work within 1 mile of the address at which they are registered. Shopping times will be staggered so that you can only make purchases for a 2-hour period each day. All non-essential item purchases will be rejected. The government, in a move to stimulate growth in the economy, is trying to ensure that all benefit money paid out to the public is spent within an appropriate time period. From the 1st of August, all benefit payments, including the new social credits, should be spent within 2 months of receiving them. Benefit money will expire and be of no use if it is not spent within the 2-month period.
Blimey, they're putting a shelf life on money.
Vaccination uptake for the latest pandemic is now at 95%. Anyone who has not been vaccinated will have restrictions placed on their wallets. For the 5% unvaccinated, spending will only be allowed at certain times and within 1 mile of home. Certain goods, such as alcohol, travel tickets and restaurant purchases, will not be available for those who have not been vaccinated, and their digital wallets will not work outside of the UK.
Wow.
Concerns are growing over people who grow and supply their own food outside of government-approved companies. The government will be restricting the purchase of all seeds and other farming products for anyone that is not a registered farmer.
What are they doing that for?
The government is trying to reduce the amount of red meat people eat in their diet for environmental and health reasons. Digital wallets will only be allowed to purchase 8 ounces of red meat per week.
How much is 8 ounces?
In order to protect the environment, the government is introducing limitations on the amount each wallet will be able to spend on the following products: aerosol cans, single-use plastics, coal, meat, chocolate, fish, and coffee. In a move to encourage good behaviour, the government is awarding digital currency direct to your wallet if you report on anyone breaking lockdown rules or report on individuals expressing extremist views. Anyone deemed to be expressing extremist views may in turn have restrictions placed on their wallets.
That's not just a parody. Every single one of those is exactly the plan for this cashless society. Biden has already last year signed the executive order. They're just waiting for the right crisis to bring it in play. And the reason why his name stands for bumbling imbecile destroying the entire nation, he's not just making dumb decisions. He works for Klaus and the gang, And we're the backbone of the global economy, the dollar. So if you're going to reset it into a cashless society, you have to destroy us. So every decision he's making is a deliberate decision to destroy our economy. America has to go down if they're going to reset it. But this is what they want to replace it with. And believe it or not, that's only half the concern. A cashless society is, I'm convinced, the first step. They're laying the stage for what God warned about 2,000 years ago called the mark of the beast system. It has to be cashless, right? It's got to be some sort of electronic payment system. I mean, you think about the mark of the beast in the right hand, the forehead, you don't just tape $20 to your head and scan it, right? There's some sort of electronic system that's going on. Well, this is what they're wanting to put in play as we sit here globally for the first time in 2,000 years. The second stage, though, is what I want to talk about tonight, believe it or not. And these same guys who are putting this cashless global society into place as we sit here, including our own country, they're traitors, folks. But what they're wanting to do also is once they get the cashless society in place, guess what they want to do? They want every individual on the planet to be biometrically connected, microchipped into this cashless society. I'm going to share with you a video in 2016 from Klaus Schwab, and he admits, first it was our products, the next thing to get chipped is us, and it will tie us into their new digital world. This is from 2016. Watch this one.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans nos topos. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital.
What did he say? He said, just as we got used to having microchips put under clothes, we're next. And then, of all places, where did he say that they're going to go? Under your skin. And they do mean the hand. And Klaus is really big on these brain chips that Elon Musk, by the way, is building. That's a whole nother study. Shocker. But what is this, folks? This is the foundation of what the Bible calls the mark of the beast system. Okay? And so the Bible is very clear. The mark of the beast gets instituted in the 7-year tribulation. We leave prior at the rapture. So all this is a sign our departure is getting near if we're seeing the global infrastructure being built right before our very eyes. Okay? But again, don't take my word for it. Let's listen to God. Let's take a look at this event called the mark of the beast, the system that will be implanted across the planet, okay, during the 7-year tribulation after the rapture. If you got your Bibles with you, hopefully you do, open them to Revelation 13. Let's take a look at that classic passage concerning this issue, the mark of the beast system. Revelation 13, verses 11 through 18. Okay, it's on page 1963 of my Bible, if that speeds it up for you. So, but this one's an easy one to find. If you find the dictionary, what do? You take a left, right? It's right there at the very end. It's pretty cool how it all works out. But Revelation, let's take a look, 13, verses 11 through 18. What is this mark of the beast system? Again, written down for you and I 2,000 years ago. Let's take a look if we see any signs of this coming to pass. Then I saw another beast, verse 11, coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. This is the false prophet. Dragon is defined in Revelation 12 as Satan. So this guy, like the Antichrist, the false prophet, is also inspired, shocker, by Satan himself. And he says there, now he exercised all authority of the first beast, the Antichrist, on his behalf, and he made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. And he also performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of men. And because of these signs he was given on power to do on behalf of the first beast, he deceived the inhabitants of the earth. He ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And he was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, the Antichrist, so that it could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. And he also forced how many? Everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark where? On his right hand specifically, or on his forehead. Why? So that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is man's number. His number is 666. I hope you're familiar with this. Unfortunately, in most churches today, even people who profess to know Christ, and maybe they do, I don't know. Believe it or not, did you know that even a lot of Christians don't even know what the mark of the beast is? They've never heard it their whole life because churches don't touch prophecy with a 10-foot pole. But this is the classic passage concerning the mark of the beast system. And you see that the Bible says one day a satanically inspired system is going to come across the whole plan. It's going to be run by an antichrist political figure and a religious figure, the false prophet. They're going to work together initially, and they're going to basically bring in not only a one world government system, a big brother system, a one world economy, okay, a one world religion, but they're going to bring in this mark of the beast system that is going to involve marking people's bodies, specifically the right hand or the forehead, and unless you take these biometric marks, you can't buy and sell. Again, good thing we don't see any signs of that happening. Cashless society comes first, which is what they're doing right now. The second one is, like Klaus warned in 2016, we're next. They're going to microchip everybody on the planet to tie them into this new digital world. Okay, and you're thinking, that's just crazy. There's no way. Folks, I'm telling you, we're going to take a look at some of that evidence tonight. And the first one is the conditioning is already here. If you've been paying attention to the media for years, not just recently, for years, and I'm talking all forms of media. We're talking cartoons, sitcoms, Hollywood, all kinds of news broadcasts, medical community, you name it. Everybody is trying to get you and I to think, wouldn't it be great if we just all get microchipped? Wouldn't it be awesome? In fact, let me give you just a quick smattering of just how much is out there all over the place in the media. The next new thing is to get a microchip. Let's take a look.
Delivery boy? No, not again. Please, anything else. Take your hands off me. You've been assigned the job you're best at, just like everyone else. What if I refuse? Well, that's tough. Lots of people don't like their jobs, but we do them anyway. You gotta do what you gotta do. Now hold out your hand. I'm going to implant your career chip. It'll permanently label you as a delivery boy.
We found this implanted in our victim's shoulder.
It's a Verichip. You scan it here. Information pops up there. Your whole life on a grain of rice.
Okay, hit more info, see if we get a driver's license.
Yeah, Jenny Price, 18.
Chase Shaw says this thing holds credit card information.
I excised this from her shoulder. I don't know what it is.
That's an RFID chip, and I think we know who put it there.
Naomi doesn't. I asked her. So whoever did this to her must have injected it while she was unconscious.
Like a way of keeping tabs on your cheating wife. Why would you implant an RFID chip in your wife's shoulder?
I was keeping tabs on her.
Keeping tabs on her. She's a human being. You're aware of that, huh? Not a pet.
She was cheating on me.
That doesn't give you the right to tag her.
RFID is the wave of the future. I'm just ahead of the curve. In 15 years, everyone will be implanted with a chip.
Brooke likes this idea, which tells you a lot about Brooke. Listen to this story. Okay, so if you forgot your ticket to a game, a soccer game in Argentina, it's not a problem because you can use the microchip that's been embedded under your skin by the team. An Argentinian soccer team planning experimentally to this point to offer supporters a chance to implant a microchip in their skin. Lets them walk right through, like Easy Pass in your car.
It's an Easy Pass.
You just walk right into the stadium.
But the Easy Pass is in your car, not in your wrist.
That's correct.
But see, I'm not really thinking about it in terms of sports as much as I would love to put one in my kids.
Just to know where they
I know,
are?
like, I know it's creepy and really futuristic, but my dog has one.
Right.
And she ran away and ended up, like, so we live downtown, and she ended up, like, in Harlem. And somebody did deliver her to a facility, a place, and they scanned her, and then they found us. And I honestly am not completely against chipping my children.
Turns out one of the biggest discoveries is actually this tiny. See how small that is? This little chip may be the next big thing, and it sounds like it's right from a sci-fi movie, but people all over the world are implanting these into their wrists. So I asked my producer, Dean, to find out more about this cutting-edge technology and what it could mean for your health.
Whether it's our smartphones, our watches, our fitness trackers, or our Bluetooth headphones, it's clear that technology is not just part of our lives, it's running them. It's how we buy things, watch things, how we date, stay safe, even how we travel. Paul? Cool. We're so attracted to our devices that they're basically becoming a part of our bodies. But what if they really could become a part of our bodies? Well, guess what? They can. Meet the RFID microchip. This tiny chip, which can be implanted into your wrist, yes, I did say wrist, uses short-range radio frequency identification, similar to the tech used to track your pets or your phone. Once implanted in your body, it could identify you as you pass through the airport, open the door to your home. It could even be used to buy groceries at the supermarket. Now, your driver's license, passport, keys, and wallet are all inside your body, contained in something the size of a grain of rice. I know it might sound like sci-fi, but it's not. 10,000 people have already been chipped, and the number is growing. The possibilities are limitless, especially when it comes to your health. Imagine you're rushed to the hospital without any identification. But with just one scan of your chip, doctors know your name, date of birth, medical history, insurance, blood type, allergies, even the medication you're taking. This chip in your wrist won't just change your life, one day it might just save it. And that's why this little RFID microchip is the next big thing.
To think something so small can connect you to everything that matters.
When your life and all you love are on the line.
HealthLink is always with you when every second counts in the emergency room, providing immediate access to your medical records.
Because Bob has trouble remembering all his medications.
Because I'm in love with my kids' kids.
Because my car lost control while driving.
Because now I'm looking out for both of us.
Because I have diabetes, but it doesn't have me.
Because I spend my life in the ER trying to save yours.
See? Wouldn't it be great if we all just got a chip? Notice the last two examples were from the medical community. I'm sure the medical community would never force us to get a chip. I mean, me personally, I think we just had the biggest dry run globally through the COVID pandemic to test the waters to see if people will go along with the mark of the beast. Because you were forced to wear a mask on your head in order to keep buying and selling. Then the next phrase was you were forced to get a shot in the arm, not too far from the hand, in order to buy and sell. I'm sure it'll just stop with masks and vaccines for the medical community. It's called sarcasm to make a point. You know they won't. That is the next step. It's the next big thing. It's all been planned out, folks, step by step. Okay? Now, if you think of the conditioning process isn't working, it is. Listen, MSNBC poll said that, quote, 20% of Americans right now are fully ready and willing to receive a microchip implant. 1 out of every 5 people that not even sneeze at it. Yep, chip me right now. 51% in the UK says, I'm ready to get chipped. Recent poll. And one expert, industry leader said, and I quote, he expects in the next 2 to 3 years, it will be standard protocol for emergency room personnel to scan the upper right arm of every patient admitted. Interesting. But that's just the conditioning process. The logistics are also here for the first time in 2,000 years. And again, this is on a global basis. And I don't know if you've ever wondered this, but I did early on as a Christian. I'm like, well, why the mark of the beast? Why is it specifically, God calls it out, why is it specifically the right hand and why the forehead? I mean, why don't they just take this mark anywhere they want? How come they don't get to choose? How come it's not like, in the middle of the back or, on your big toe or something? Why is it that it's specifically the right hand or the forehead? Well, I think there's a couple reasons. The first one is what I call a practical issue. Believe it or not, there's this weird weather that happens on large portions of the planet. It's called cold weather. Have you heard stories? I've seen people wear strange clothes with these things called hats and scarves and gloves. I'm serious. It's not a legend. You can see it on the internet. Right? But for a large portion of the planet, it's cold, right? So if you put a mark of the beast chip in somebody's back or big toe, you're in a cold weather climate, that's going to slow things down. But not if you have it in the hand or the forehead. If you got the forehead, you just lift up your cap, bang, bang, you're ready to go. If it's in your hand, you could just take your glove off, put it back on, you're good to go. So I think there's a little bit of a logistical issue there on that, and a practical issue. The second one is what I call the energy issue. Now, believe it or not, these chips have been in play. I know some people personally involved in this field, but the biomedical community, okay, and they had spent years ago, one guy was in it for 32 years, the biomed field it's called, they spent over, and I quote, $1.5 million to find out the 2 places on the human body that temperature changes most rapidly. And you're like, well, why? Well, because these things need an energy charge, right? And you don't want to put a battery inside you, right? But they need a voltage to keep this thing going, this chip going, right? So what are you going to do? Well, they actually figured out the technology that they can create a voltage in the human body off of a temperature change. When it changes, they'll create a voltage. So that's what will charge the chips. Now, after spending $1.5 million, and I quote from the research, where is the 2 places on the body that temperature fluctuates the most? And I quote, in the forehead, right below the hairline, and the back of the hand. Which makes sense because that's where Mom used to check our temperature the old-fashioned way. Interesting. So there's that issue, I think the right hand, the forehead. The other one is this, it's the worship issue. Sometimes you hear people, man, I'm so concerned about the mark of the beast, man. I don't even want to take a nap on the couch, because if I fall asleep, they're going to come and chip me. No! First of all, if you're a born-again Christian, we leave prior to the 7-year tribulation. The mark of the beast doesn't happen until in the 7-year tribulation, and most people would agree that it's at the halfway point. But so we're not concerned about getting the mark of the beast. Did I take the mark of the beast? Because that's not part of our reality. We need to warn people of the coming of the mark of the beast and how to avoid it through Jesus Christ is our point. Okay, but you'll hear people say, I fell asleep in the chip. No, whoever takes the chip, you are going to make a decision. You choose to take this, right? Or die, but it's still a choice. But it's also an act of worship. Okay, and we see that at least 4 different times in this text here in Revelation 13, verse 4. And they also what? Worshiped the beast. Revelation 13:8. And all inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life. Revelation 13:12. And made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. And Revelation 13:15. So that the image could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. Right? So people taking this mark, okay, are doing it as an act of worship. Yes, you will be allowed to buy and sell, but it's also specifically an act of worship. And you're going okay, so what's that got to do with the right hand and forehead? Well, if you think about it, that even fits in play as well. Right? Maybe us here in the West, we're going well, who would ever want to get a mark in their forehead, man? That's a fashion faux pas. I mean, that's worse than your jacket, Pastor Billy. I mean, who wants a slightly bump on your forehead? That's not cool. Well, believe it or not, our society, a huge chunk of our world, I believe they're going to line up and get it in the forehead. Forget the hand. And that's because of the Hindu and the Asian populations. They already use a mark on the forehead. And not just a mark, it's to worship and interact with their deities. Right? It's called the tilaka. That's the one that's more of a line in the forehead, or the bindi, that's the dot. Okay, and it isn't just the old cultures. They still do it, young culture, whatever. So, and that's a huge chunk of the planet. The Asian population, the Hindu population, that's a big chunk of the planet. Now, there's another big chunk of our planet that I also believe is going to be left behind because they believe in a false gospel, a works-based gospel. You have to keep the sacraments in order to be saved. It's called Catholicism. So if a person believes you have to do something in order to be saved, you're not saved, right? It's only through the work of Jesus Christ. But that's what the Catholic Church teaches. So guess what? Even the Catholics every year receive a mark on their forehead, right? on Ash Wednesday, including Mr. who already signed the executive order to go cashless. That also rhymes with Biden, right? So I think that is a very good indicator that those people probably will take it in the forehead as well, okay? And then you look at the trend that we have going on today, right? You're thinking, well, man, nobody's going to take that. That's crazy. Well, what's the trend that we've been seeing going on? Not just tattoos. Okay, you see what? Piercing, body piercings, bone implants, all this. You think they're going, oh, no, don't chip me. That's too crazy. Are you kidding me? In fact, one of the latest trends out there, I'm not joking if you've seen this one, it's called a bagel head, right? Don't you want to be cool? Hey, don't be scoffing, right? Don't you want to be cool? And what they do is they inject saline into the forehead, and then they press it in to leave that bump, and it looks like a bagel, and that's the latest rage, a bagel head. But hey, don't stop there. If you want to get a bagel head, get some implants. You know, that guy on the right, I don't know, he got hit by a truck or something, but anyway, but don't you want to be cool, right? Do you think these guys are going to say, oh no, don't put a small microchip in my head? I'll never do that. That's unsightly. How about this guy? Do you think he's going to reject it? I'm not making fun of him. I'm saying this is the trend. This is our society. They ain't going to reject to that. There's just no way. This guy, I don't know, Edward Scissorhands or something like that, right? I think a chip's going to be a chump change. This lady, even filed down her teeth, wants to be a vampire. You think our culture that doesn't know Christ is going to, oh no, don't chip me in the head. That's just no way. This guy, you know, with the piercing, now you can see all the way through. I don't think so, folks. Okay, or now you can combine them. You can get a bagel head, and you can be just like Wolverine, right? Notice it's in the hand. And speaking of the hand, they don't just put small things, a teeny tiny, the size of a grain of rice on their hand, big things in the hand. Do you think they're going to sneeze at that? But that's the forehead, folks, right? And you go, okay, well, what about the other option? Worship, right? The forehead, a lot of people worship with the forehead. So I think that's a practical issue there. But what about the hand? Well, hello, did we already forget what was going on with the days of Hitler? As a political figure of worship with the right hand. And it's a good thing that went away. No, it's not. If you know anything about the Palestinian community, who also has pledged to exterminate Israel, they also use the right hand. And I didn't forget this one. I don't know if you guys did, but remember back in the Obama years when he had his supporters write messages of support that they pledge allegiance to Obama and write them over their hearts? I didn't forget. I kept those on file. And who's Obama? A political figure, but with the right hand as well. Even recently with some of the activist movements, what are they doing? It's the right hand. So why did God choose these? Because, folks, those are also an act of worship, that people are going to use these as an act of worship. And listen, our society's already doing it. And so the chip's going to go right and play with it. What was warned about 2,000 years ago. But again, what's even scarier is, again, as I mentioned, the willingness is already here. There's people all over the world, folks, that are ready and willing to take these microchip implants. And guess what they also do? They help you to buy and sell, okay? And let me give you a couple quick examples here in the United States and abroad. But watch this. Let's take a look at this next video.
Microchip implants are a popular way to keep track of pets. Now, some people are getting them, but for a different reason.
The microchips can help unlock doors or log into a cell phone. Consumer Watch reporter Julie Watts explains.
Tim Shank uses it to open his front door and manipulate a smartphone.
And it turned off my ringer.
Chrissy Heischman uses hers instead of a key card at work.
And it's just a little glass bead like the size of a grain of rice.
They're among a growing number of people implanting technology under their skin.
We don't want to carry devices. We want devices built into us.
Zoltan Ishvan of Mill Valley belongs to the Transhumanist Party. The movement seeks to radically improve humans through digital implants, even genetic manipulation. For now, a common procedure, implanting programmable RFID chips under the skin. But instead of a doctor's office, many are turning to tattoo and piercing shops.
We're doing the procedure start to finish just like we would do an earring, a nose ring, a belly button ring. It's just a little piece of glass.
The online company Dangerous Things sells the device and injection kit for $57. But they're not alone. A San Francisco company is developing tiny implantable digital tattoos. They'll authenticate credit cards, track your location, even collect health data.
Thousands of people in Sweden have opted to trade in their ID and their credit cards for tiny microchips that would be implanted like underneath their skin.
Yeah, these chips are supposed to take the place of key cards, rail cards, credit cards.
Yeah, the chips are typically the size of a grain of rice, and they're implanted just under the skin between the thumb and the forefinger.
So many people in Sweden are lining up to get these microchips that the country's main chipping company says that it can't even keep up with the number of requests.
Really?
What in
No way I would do that.
What in the Illuminati, mark of the beast, witchcraft is going on over there in Sweden?
You laugh about it, but you know what it is at the same time, right? Notice the technology there, the RFID technology, which stands for radio frequency identification, the microchip technology. It could be what's called a subdermal implant, or it could be an external tattoo, which to me solves the debate. Sometimes in prophecy circles, people go, oh, no, the mark goes on the skin. Or no, it goes under the skin. Same technology does both. You're missing the point. Okay, but you can see this is real. Now, speaking of Sweden, Sweden is 99% cashless, has been for several years now. And so they're having not just microchip implants, they're having microchip parties. And now you know what the latest excuse to get a microchip in Sweden is? And I quote, a Swedish company has created a microchip that allows users to carry their COVID vaccine passport under their skin. It's almost like it's all been planned and people are just lining up like cattle. They don't even realize. It's exactly what's going on, okay? Let me give you another one. The payments are already here, right? You see, the mark of the beast system is not just being conditioned. It's not just, we see the practical issue, the logistical issue. We see the willingness issue. But if it's going to work, it's not just something to track you and store your medical information and your ID and all that stuff. You got to use it to make payments, okay? And so let's take a look at that. Is that even happening? Or is that like technology far, far away we don't have to worry about? Well, let's revisit those texts. Where are they going to be making those payments? Here it is, Revelation 13, 16 through 17. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his where? Forehead. Why? So that no one could buy or sell unless he had that mark. And I don't know about you, but it's a good sign that we see no technology even coming close to emerging on the planet to where we see people can actually make a payment with their head. See, the gentleman on the front row with the snazzy shirt, he got it. It's called sarcasm to make a point. He paid attention last time when I said it, so don't miss it the next time. Excuse me, folks, that's already being done. Here's just one of the ones out there you can make a payment with your head. Not coming, already here.
Imagine coming to a store and your wallet is already there. You pick up your things, approach to the checkout, give a meaningful nod, and that's it. Imagine you're late to your plane. There is a huge queue, but you instantly check in while running to the border control. Imagine you drive to the petrol station. You casually fuel your tank and your payment is done simultaneously. You just had to click OK. Imagine the shop where all those magic things came to life. People coming with friends just to show it off. Well, this is not a fiction anymore. They all got a Unical account. And now, wherever they go, I recognize them. Processing takes under a second. They sign in as soon as I see them. All they had to do was click OK. Hi, I'm your new friend, Unical.
Hi, I'm your new friend, Antichrist. If you just take this mark on your head, wouldn't it be great? Breeze through life. Slow motion for effect. Not coming, already here. And there's various forms of it. It's not by chance, folks. It's all being put into place. But let's take a look at the other part. That was just the forehead. Are people making payments with the other option? Well, let's take a look at the other option. Revelation 14, another text dealing with this. 9:10 says, if anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark in his forehead, or where? The hand, and specifically 13 says the right hand, he too will drink of the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. In other words, you don't want to do it. All right? But again, we see the other option. You got the forehead, you got the right hand, and again, it's, be patient with you guys. I'm going to help you out here today. And it's a good thing we see no signs of anybody making payments with the hand. Sarcasm to make a point. Yeah, it's all over the place. I'm not even going to mention Amazon One, which is what? Pay with your hand. But there's all kinds of hand payments that have been going on for a while, including conditioning kids to make payments, and they specifically train them with the right hand. Watch this.
You've seen the science fiction in movies using unique biological characteristics instead of keys.
He's been identified on the metro.
A facial or iris scan to unlock doors and digital accounts. An electronic, paperless society.
Yeah, John Ashton.
Come summer, that kind of technology will leap off the big screen, and one Metro grocery store will make your identity available right at your fingertips. It's sci-fi technology that's about to enter the checkout lane, all in the name of
speed and convenience.
You'll be able to buy anything from bread to beer if you agree to give the store your ultimate identity.
Walk in with just your finger.
It's much easier just to swipe your fingers than to go through all the cards.
A new form of technology has made its way to the register. Are you ready for this? Payment by fingertip. In Florida, coast-to-coast convenience stores has become the first to use such technology.
It's nothing more than converting your debit card or your checking account to apply it to your fingertip.
The LA Unified School District is pushing a program to fingerprint some kids before they can get their lunch.
Digitizing lunch scans district-wide has stirred a bit of controversy. LAUSD is the second largest school system in the school system across the country. It serves over 500,000 student meals every day. Students at Fauché Learning Center are expected to be the first in the district that use a fingerprint-like scanner to biometrically identify them for meals in the lunchroom. District officials say the system poses no security or privacy risks to children or their families and would help bring district cafeterias into the 21st century.
Well, it looks and sounds like something out of the future, but a new palm scanning device will help Bossier Parish schools keep better track of what children are eating there. The electronic device will be implemented at all Bossier Parish schools. Workers are currently being trained on how to use it. A small infrared camera is used to scan a child's hand. And because palm and fingerprints are unique, the system can keep track of everything students eat and even what they're not supposed to eat. Food allergies can also be listed, as well as items you don't want your child to eat. And if a student picks one of those items, the system won't let them buy it.
System won't let them buy it. System won't let them buy it.
You know, today it's a fingerprint, tomorrow a microchip. Maybe that ushers in the mark of the beast.
I can't believe he just paid with his hand. Like, you just literally put your hand up and you're good to go. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's technology that's already here in multiple formats, but they just happen to be using the hand in the head. Do you think it's by chance? It's getting that close, folks. And this is all part of the plan. Got to go cashless first, which is what they're working on right now. Biden, the traitor, has sold out our country. He's working for Klaus. That's why he was put into office, through the chicanery, the lying, and the cheating, because he's going to be the man to try to destroy our economy, to create the crisis, to crash our system, to reset it into this system. And I'm convinced that the Bible is the only book on the planet that tells us what it is. It's the mark of the beast system. And we leave prior. That's how close our departure is, folks. Okay, let me give you one more and we'll wrap it up. The next thing is the pressures here. And this is common sense, I would think, because you know that not everybody in the 7-year tribulation is going to say, yeah, sure, line me up and give me that chip. A lot of people are, most people are. But there's going to be some resistance. So what in the world is the Antichrist going to do? Well, he's going to do something that we just saw with the COVID issue. He's going to issue a mandate. Sound familiar? We just had a global mandate. Again, the biggest dry run in the history of mankind for the mark of the beast. But again, I didn't say it, God did. Watch this, Revelation 13, 16 through 17. And he gave everybody a complete choice because he honored their free will and their national sovereignty that each nation should be able to decide for themselves in a free market society. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong translation. He also what? Force. What's force? Mandate. And this is the global context. Good thing we never see any sign historically of global mandates going out. We just had it. And so he's going to do another mandate globally. He's going to force people, everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand and forehead so that no one could buy or sell unless he had that mark. People were mandated. You were forced. You better put this thing on your head, a mask, or you can't buy and sell. People were mandated. They were forced. If you don't get this jab in your arm, not too far from the hand, if you don't do that, you're not going to buy and sell. We just saw the biggest dry run. Now, also what they've been doing too is because, again, they work at their extremes until the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal, as Klaus said, is they want everybody on the planet microchipped, tied into this digital world, the cashless economy. Okay, so they can control every aspect. It's a prison planet, right? A digital concentration camp is another term that's out there. But that's the goal, is to get people, and you're like, well, wait, mandate, forcing, you know, I mean, you would think the planet would rebel at somebody being forced to take a microchip. I mean, that would be too much. No. Again, what they do is they condition us. They start at the end of the spectrum and slowly get us conditioned toward the ultimate goal, and that is they're going to force everybody. And what they do is they start at the extreme, again, and let me explain that one. Like, for instance, how about those people, of course I don't believe this, but this is how they pitch it. How about those people who deserve to have no right, no choose at this? You know, like those dangerous people. Those people in prisons, those criminals. They don't deserve to have rights. And so you know what? We need to chip them. You know why we need to chip them? Because we've already been microchipping them anyway with those bracelets. But see, they figured out how to take those things off. But you know what? If we microchip them, it's the right thing to do. And there's already a discussion on forcing prisoners to be microchipped. Watch this.
With the two fugitives on the loose, a lawmaker from upstate has a high-tech plan to prevent another prison break. She's proposing microchipping prisoners. CBS 2's political reporter Marcia Kramer here with that proposal. Marcia?
Well, Dana, bloodhounds and expensive manhunts are so yesterday when it comes to hunting escaped prisoners. That's the opinion of one upstate senator who says the state should explore implanting tiny GPS devices under convict skin. Others say microchipping criminals could have multiple uses.
If you've got convicted murderers, the type of people that these two men are, that it would make some good sense at that level that we should have something that we could track them.
With 800 law enforcement officials still unable to pick up the trail of escaped murderers Richard Matt and David Sweat, the suggestion from State Senator Kathy Michonne to microchip people convicted of serious crimes with tiny GPS devices under their skin is picking up steam. They already microchip pets.
It wouldn't do any harm, I guess. They do it with dogs. I think that might be a good idea. Maybe it'll work.
I heard about it over other parts of the world, so I would say yes.
Once we go down this path, we're going to start microchipping all of us, which is what I think some people in Albany would like to do.
The only sensible guy. But see, they don't deserve it, right? Because they're criminals. And they don't deserve to have a right to choose. We're going to microchip them to keep the rest of us safe. Again, work at the end of the spectrum, work your way in towards your ultimate goal to get everybody chipped. You know what? I'll tell you what, now that we've solved that prisoner crisis with microchip, here's another crisis. You've heard about this. This is unfortunately happening all over the place. Alzheimer's. How many of us know? And I'm not making fun of this, by the way. I've had several family members, unfortunately, pass due to this, and we've gone through that. I'm not making this, but to use sarcasm to make a point, to listen to these advocates, they literally say this. See, we'll microchip them. We'll microchip these Alzheimer's people. I mean, because here's the rationale. They don't know anyway. And it's for their own good. So we're going to force them to get microchipped. And the rest of us can have a good night's sleep. Even if they wander off, we can find them wherever they go. That, too, is already being done. Watch this.
Well, a company is developing a microchip that could be used to help patients with dementia.
Yeah, this Wisconsin company got a lot of attention last year when they started putting microchips in their employees. They use the chips like other companies use ID badges.
So now they say they're working on a more advanced version that they say they've gotten requests from people with relatives who have Alzheimer's or dementia. The new device will have GPS technology.
There were times that my mom would call. Panicked. I just got the shower and Dad is nowhere to be found. Immediately, my mind went to a bad place.
It's why she was intrigued to hear about a piece of technology being made by 3 Square Market, a company in River Falls.
Someone with Alzheimer's and dementia, time is your biggest enemy.
Patrick McMullen is the president of the company that you may remember offered hand-inserted microchips to their employees to scan into the building or buy things from the break room.
The developers of this microchip now believe it could save lives, especially for those suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's.
It's a low-power GPS device.
If a person with dementia or Alzheimer's has the microchip inserted in a hand and gets lost, the microchip would send their location or a map of where they've recently been back to the person's caregiver or loved ones, notifying them in real time where the person is.
Notice those microchips, because this is another thing they lie about. Oh, don't worry, those microchips, it's called near-field technology, and you have to be really close to the scanner before it can pick up. What did they just show you? She's off out in the mountains, and they could track her. Excuse me? We're being lied to. But hey, let's move in a step closer, right? Your ultimate goal. I mean, they don't know any difference. The prisoners don't deserve any rights. But how about those government workers? Soldiers and policemen. I mean, they're government property anyway, and we're going to do it for their own good. Well, you know where I'm going with this. They're doing that as well. Watch this. This is crazy, okay, what they're wanting to do.
Sergeant Bill Koretsky's implanted medical microchip may have saved his life. His story begins in the middle of a high-speed police chase in New Jersey.
And the brakes on the police car overheated, the car wouldn't stop, and I hit a telephone pole dead center at 40 miles an hour. The airbag did not deploy. I didn't have my seatbelt on. I hit the steering wheel.
Paramedics rushed Koretsky to Hackensack University Medical Center. Thanks to his implant, doctors immediately discovered Koretsky's diabetes.
They regained consciousness full consciousness within an hour. But if I did not, I could have gone into a coma.
If the Verichip Corporation has its way, Koretsky's story will become the norm.
Keeping track of troops in Iraq, the military is already using some type of GPS on some soldiers, but what more can be done? CNN's Brian Todd takes a look in this week's Tech Effect.
One option, placing a tracking microchip under a service member's skin. Former U.S. Special Operations officers tell us they believe that's being developed. Current military officials won't comment on that.
Yeah, I wonder why. But the current government, they'll never force soldiers into getting a microchip, would they? It's not like they force them to get a vaccine or anything else, but I'm sure it'll stop there. Do you see the setup, folks? Little by little, you're working your way into everybody is going to get the microchip, whether you want it or not, including kids. Huh? I mean, see, we not only have people with Alzheimer's getting lost, unfortunately, that does happen, but you've heard the latest thing. Those rotten people, sex traffickers. And again, I'm not making light of that. That really does happen. That is a very, very serious issue, and it's sick. But see, here's the panacea. If we chip our kids, I mean, if it's good for Fido and Fifi, won't it be good for Johnny and Susie? And then if they do get kidnapped or lost, we could find them. Parents, younger parents, are already willing to do that to their own kids, not just Brooke Shields, but watch this. This is crazy.
It happens in seconds. Moms and dads, you know that feeling. Your child gets lost in a store, maybe just wanders off for a second or two. Your heart stops, though. Panic sets in, and you think the worst. It's happened to most of us, but what if you had a secret weapon, an extra layer of safety, so to speak? How far would you go to keep your children secure?
Would you be willing to microchip them? Experts tell us the technology already exists. Turns out one Bay Area mother is all for it, and she shared her story with our Melanie Michael.
Hey guys, good evening to you both. You know, chances are if you have a four-legged family member at home, it's already microchipped. And if the technology exists to save Fido in an emergency, what about microchipping your child? Before you say, no way, I would never do that, hear one mom's story.
It's the longest 2 seconds of your life, and it's absolute panic.
My son back. We've seen it in movies.
Isn't my daughter?
Over and over again, children gone missing.
It's terrifying.
For Stephanie Rodriguez Neely, life is busier than ever with 4 children, including a newborn. She knows scary situations can happen in an instant, and for her, it has.
If it'll save my kid, there's no step that's too extreme.
Stephanie's teenage daughter is a special needs child, prone to wander off and trust strangers. For that very reason, Stephanie wholeheartedly welcomes microchipping a child.
If a small chip the size of a grain of rice could have prevented a tragedy, I think most parents, hindsight would have said, I wish I would have done it.
A well-known technology expert out of Boston tells us microchipping poses little to no health risks and would act as a barcode of sorts.
without question. It could save a life, reunite a family, find a missing Alzheimer's patient.
I always tell people, as long as you're doing what you feel is best for your child, you're not really wrong.
And guys, this is what we're talking about, the microchip. I don't know if you can see it in my hand. It's the size of a grain of rice, very, very small. And the expert that we spoke with actually tells us that barcodes were introduced in the late 1960s. And back then people thought, this is way too invasive and too weird. And now barcodes are so commonplace that we don't even think about them anymore. The expert tells us this will happen sooner rather than later. Somewhere, someday, someone is going to pull this off and we could see those microchips in everyone.
That's interesting.
Just had to slip it in there, didn't you? It was supposed to be about just kids, but it's all what? Preparation for the ultimate goal. I don't know if you noticed or not, but the younger generation seems to be much more open to that. And I don't know if you noticed that, but maybe it was just a quinkydink, but somebody who's already into piercing your eyebrow, which, okay, whatever, but you can understand the rationale that what's the big deal about a tiny little chip? It's all conditioning. But you know people are going to hold out, even with this. They're working towards that. They're going to mandate it. But I think they're also going to do the final thing that we just saw with COVID. They're going to use your employer against you. You don't wear that mask on your head, you're fired. And that happened. You don't get this vaccine, I don't care if you've been here for 30 years, you're fired. It didn't matter if it was illegal. It didn't matter if it was unconstitutional. They still did it anyway. And believe it or not, folks, there's already companies that are saying, you want to keep your job? Get one of these chips. It's a setup, man. I'm telling you, watch this.
There's my chip right there.
So you can actually see it. It's about the size of a grain of rice, and it feels like it too. But what that tiny chip can and can't do has become the source of much concern and confusion.
I was in a grocery store, and a couple ladies said, hey, you're the guy with the chip in your arm, aren't you? You know, run across the scanner so we can see if it gets us a discount on groceries.
Sean Darks is the CEO of CityWatcher.com, a small company in Cincinnati that's the first U.S. business to use chip implants in its employees. Chip implants have been common in pets for several years, giving the owner peace of mind that their lost animal could be identified. And for retail giant Walmart, the chips are used as smart barcodes to keep track of thousands of products. But for use in people, well, privacy advocates think we shouldn't open that door. Like it or not, we're in that brave new world, and it might not be long before your boss is literally getting under your skin.
That never happened. What did we just see? Your boss said what? Put this on your head or you're fired. Get this shot in your arm or you're fired. One day it will be, I'm convinced. You take this chip or you're fired for the holdouts that didn't line up and do it. Now, if you're thinking that the current administration would never go along with that, I've been sitting on this baby for 18 years. Talk about, you got to be joking me, shades of revelation. It's almost like even the political leaders they give us has been a setup. This is an interview that I've kept since 2005 of then Joe Biden interviewing John Roberts for the Chief Justice position, which obviously he got. In this interview, listen to what Joe Biden said back in 2005 Justice Roberts was going to have to rule on in America before his tenure was over. Watch this.
And we'll be faced with equally consequential decisions in the 21st century. Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over.
I think the real concern that most people have is that, at some point the government would say, line up and get your chip.
They wouldn't do that, would they? The same two people who did the COVID mandate, one sitting in the White House now, one sitting at the top of the U.S. Supreme Court. And the one in the White House said, mark my words, you will rule on this before your tenure is up. Can a microscopic tag be implanted into a person's body to track their every move? And these microscopic tags don't just track you and store information. As you saw in every example, they could what? Be used to buy and sell. And believe it or not, this is what Klaus said in 2016. Cashless is the first step. But then the next step is we're going to tie you into the digital world with chips. And if you think Mr. Biden would never do that, I've got a tape of Klaus Schwab saying in the same year that interview was, in 2016, where we saw at the beginning, that Klaus Schwab said that, hey, we're going to get microchips, everybody. The same year at the World Economic Forum, he brags about how Joe Biden is his best disciple. Watch this.
I'm very honored and pleased to introduce the Honorable Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States. I'm so pleased to see you back here in Davos, because I remember before you assumed your position as Vice President of the United States, you came here as a senator, you came here as the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the Senate. And I have to say, in my memory, you were one of the most engaged and hardest working participants here at the annual meeting.
You've written extensively on the topic that you've asked me to speak to, mastering the fourth industrial revolution. This fora defines that as change fueled by a digital revolution.
Gee, Joe, I wonder what digital revolution you're talking about. One of Klaus's favorite disciples. Folks, what is this? I'm not a prophet nor the son thereof, but I don't think it'd take a rocket scientist to figure out. We are seeing, and I am fully convinced of this personally, the foundation being laid globally for what God warned about 2,000 years ago, the mark of the beast system. That's how close we are. And that's why as Christians, it's not a time for us to freak out and run to the hills. It's what? What does Jesus say? When these things begin to take place, and they're taking place, what do? Stand up, lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. In fact, let's do that. Go ahead and stand up. I've been sitting for a while, right? And I'm not an exercise freak or anything like that. If you want to eat right or veggies, do your thing. That's cool, right? But this is one exercise program that I can recommend every single day, 3 times a day. First in the morning when you first get up, then maybe sometime at noon just to remind yourself, and then before you go to bed. But this is all you do, right? And this is amazing, right? It'll revolutionize your walk with Christ. So just stand up like this and just do this. It's rapture practice, you know, right? So you can have a seat. So basically, I know it's fun, but go ahead and sit back down. We got to close, okay? But that's what all this means, right? It's not meaning, oh no, freak out, I'm going to sleep on the couch, they're going to microchip me. No! This is, I am convinced, the foundation for the mark of the beast. We leave prior. All it means is God's given us, even in current events. Church, it's getting close. I'm not going to tell you the exact day nor the hour because you goof off. I know you. But he loves us, and he says, but I am going to give you signs it's close. So finish strong. Don't be fearful, be faithful. If we don't get up out of bed every day and our heart cry is, oh, God, use me to save a soul today. God, bring people by that I could witness to. God, use me to be the salt and the light and the resistance, the restraining influence in our culture today to engage this culture for you. If that's not your heart cry, you need to repent and get right with God tonight and return to your first love. That's the whole point. Because when, not if the rapture happens, Christ will find you doing something. And if that right there convicted you, that means you're off track. Get back on track. He loves you. Return to your first love and finish strong. But if you're here tonight and you're not saved, you're watching online, what in the world are you waiting for? I don't know. This is not a game. This is not a joke. Jesus said it, I didn't. The 7-year tribulation is going to include the mark of the beast scenario. Is the worst time in the history of mankind. You don't want to be there. You need to take the one and only way out, and that's through the cross of Christ. And get saved now. Because after the rapture happens, all hell breaks loose on this planet. And you don't want to be here. It'll look something like this. We'll close in prayer after this. It's coming. It's not a joke. And anything that Hollywood could ever dream up, like we just saw, it's going to be a whole lot worse. But it gives you an idea of why Jesus said, I love you, and I'm going to tell you in advance what's coming to this planet. I'm going to judge this planet because of the wicked, the evil, because God is holy. But because I love you, I'm going to tell you in advance so you know when it's close, so that if you are saved, finish strong. Why would you love this world I'm about to destroy instead of the world to come? Or if you're not saved, why in the world would you do this to yourself when you had a way of escape for free? Turn to Christ tonight if that's you. Amen?